In the previous chapter, we learnt about Quantize, what it is to move each note onto a grid line in order to get a sort of machine-like timing. But we also explored the idea that maybe that isn't what we want. Sometimes we might want to keep a more human, live feel to our performances. Is there a halfway house? Well, in this chapter, we're going to discover that there is, that we can use Quantize, but at a less extreme value than 100%. In other words, rather than full Quantize, which is going to move every single note absolutely bang in time, what we can do is to move notes some way in time in order to keep some of our natural feel at the same time as tightening up timing when things are too loose. So here is a drum pattern, the same drum pattern that we were looking at in the previous chapter. I've replayed it, and this time you can see that my timing really is out. I'm going to run this with the metronome, and what we'll do is we'll have a listen to where my performance fits right now, and we'll hear it against a metronome, so we'll be able to hear very clearly where there is sort of timing inaccuracy. Okay, so we can particularly see as well as hear that in bar 1, everything's a little bit late. Now, again, what I could do, as we did in the previous chapter, would simply be to select 1/16, and everything is going to be absolutely in time. But what if that kind of slightly late, lazy feel was something I was after? I did want to feel a little bit like this groove was a little bit more relaxed and maybe not quite as metronomic and strict as it is once I've quantized it. How could I keep some of that feel at the same time as tightening up the timing? Well, what you'll find in any workstation is that you get a quantized strength option. And as you might expect, by default, that's going to be at 100%. You can see that I'm sort of hovering over this gap, and Logic's popped up to show me that Quantize is currently set to 100%. In other words, if I select 1/16 notes, what's going to happen is that every note is going to move 100% in time in order to become perfectly in time. So it sort of stands to reason that if I was to select a quantized value of, let's say, 50%, what's going to happen is that it's going to take every note that I've played and move it halfway between the position where I played that note and perfect timing. So if I go back to 0%, or turn that off altogether, we'll see the original positions of the notes. If I select 50%, what we'll discover is that it's going to move halfway between the current value and perfect timing. And if I was to select 100%, then of course everything's going to be absolutely in time. So this is a way that I can play beats in and retain some of the feel of my track and the way that I performed that rhythm, and at the same time tidy anything up that feels like it's a little bit too extreme. And the reason why this is so important is that we all have our own natural sense of groove. Yep, we might not be the world's best keyboard or drum players, but nevertheless the kind of feel of the way that we feel groove is a huge part of the music that we make. And simply eradicating that by selecting a quantized value of 100% every time, right, might really sort of compromise the individuality of the grooves that you play and put into your tracks. So really think about the idea of a quantized strength that's less than 100% to retain some of your natural feel.